A lot of commercial roofers that I talk to think that there are only two outcomes when they send a repair proposal to a customer. You either win that job or you lose the job. And if you lose it, that's it. Maybe you drop that lead into an email nurturing campaign. Maybe you follow up every once in a while. Maybe you just hope that they remember your name the next time that they have a leak. But hope is not a strategy to scale your service division. Here's the thing, losing the repair does not mean that you have to lose the account. In fact, one of the smartest things that we ever did was use an MSA, a master service agreement, as a way to create reactive service work from clients who did not hire us for the original repair that we had proposed. And in a lot of cases, that strategy didn't just create emergency service revenue, it helped us win the account back. So in this video, I want to walk you through the bigger idea behind that. It's not coming from a legal standpoint, not coming from a paperwork standpoint, but from a business strategy standpoint alone. Because from what I've seen, most roofers are not really selling service work. They're selling projects. They send a proposal for a leak. They send a proposal for a repair. They send maintenance scopes out. And really only one of two things happen. They either win it or they lose it. And if they win it, great. They're like, yes, let's go. If they lose it, what usually happens next? They stick that contact in some kind of nurturing sequence, and they just hope that one day that property manager, that facility manager, that ownership group remembers them when another issue comes up. And every now and then, sure, somebody does call you back from that list. But that's not a predictable strategy. That's not a real service division system that you can rely on. And the problem is that a lot of commercial roofing work is not full replacements. A lot of it is reactive. Could be maintenance work, could be repair, could be just basic water intrusion, can be emergency response. A lot of it ends up being tenant disruption. And it's somebody who's needing help quickly. That resident, that community, that tenant, they're being disrupted, water intrusions coming in, and a property manager wants you to be able to come out quickly. So the miss is, in my opinion, that there's a lot of roofers that are treating every single opportunity like a one-time bid instead of asking better questions like, how do I stay connected to this account even when the next roofing problem shows up that they're not currently my client? Because in commercial roofing, I really think that there are two types of clients out there. You either got proactive clients or reactive clients. Your proactive clients are planning ahead. They're budgeting. They're thinking about proactive inspections, long-term condition, maintenance planning, capital improvements, etc. But reactive clients, they're way different. They only act when something goes wrong. They act when there's a leak, when there's a complaint, when there's an issue with a resident, water's coming in. Now somebody needs a solution. And if you understand the difference, it's definitely going to be able to change how you approach serving and selling. Because the reactive client is not always buying the same way that a proactive client is buying. A reactive client, they want speed, they want clarity, they want confidence with you. They want to know, like, who is going to answer the phone. They want to know who's going to be the one to show up. They want to know, can you help them out in a situation that is turning into an emergency without a brand new pricing debate every single time you show up? And that's really where the MSA became really powerful for us, because what did we do when we built it? If we knew we lost the repair, we would confirm that they hired somebody else. At that point, we already knew that the work was probably getting done within about a week or two, which is pretty normal for basic repair work. Then we would follow back up 15 days later. Not bitter. We're not trying to rebid that same job. We're not trying to sound like the backup roofer, but we would follow up professionally. We would ask, hey, how did the repair go? How was the team? Did they take care of you? Did they take care of the community and the residents? And then Once that conversation was really going and getting underway, we would shift into a very important question. And I would ask, what does your warranty actually do for you when you have a real emergency? Because that's where a lot of the gap usually was with the paperwork. A lot of roofs may technically be under warranty, but the warranty coverage and emergency response are definitely not one and the same thing. There's a big distinction between the two. Just because your roof is under warranty does not mean that the contractor is going to come out in the middle of the night when it's raining and water's coming in and tenants are upset and there's active disruption that's happening currently at that moment at the property. So I would use an analogy. I used AAA roadside service. So let's say your truck is under warranty. That does not mean that the warranty solves your immediate roadside problem. You're still responsible for getting that vehicle to the dealership or service center. That's why people buy things like AAA roadside coverage, not because the warranty is useless, but because they need someone to respond when they're in a bind. That was the same concept that I used. So we were saying, hey, your roof is under warranty, but do you have somebody who can respond right now if something happens after hours? Do you have an emergency dispatching service? Do you have someone who can come out and mitigate those water intrusion issues, at least slow down the problem and give you physical presence on site while the situation is currently happening? Because especially in multifamily, the physical presence matters a lot. A manager wants to know that there's somebody there. Residents want to know somebody showed up because it means that they were heard. There is value in the fact that action is happening. So the MSA gave us a way to fill that gap. And the reason the structure worked was because it made reactive service predictable without pretending reactive service is predictable. I think that's the key. Reactive roofing work is messy by nature. It is not always perfectly scoped projects. You don't always know exactly what you're walking into until you're there. So instead of trying to force that kind of work into a rigid quoted model every single time, we built a framework around it. We had weekday rates Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We had weekend rates, and then we had after hour emergency rates. It was based on T&M, time and material, and then it had a NTE, a not to exceed, that we would set up with the property manager. That gave us a way to move fast and to do the work. It gave us clear client boundaries. There was clarity, there was confidence that was built into the agreement. So they understood the structure ahead of time before they would ever dial us. They knew what normal time looked like, what weekend time looked like, what emergency response looked like, and they had an NTE in place. So there was a cap guiding the work. That's why I say the MSA was not just paperwork, it was a business tool. It gave us a clean framework for messy real world service calls. Now, I want to give you a real example because this is really where it drove home the point to me when I was building this out. It was apartment community, 46 buildings, all flat roof community. It was a property that I really wanted to land. And there was a repair. It was a BUR system, rock roof over 4-ply asphalt. And this is when I first started really starting to dial in the MSA program. So I was still learning how powerful this tool could be. We had lost the repair to another big hot mop competitor back in the day. On paper, that should have been it. End of story. They got it. We didn't move on. But we followed up. We followed our process. We called back. And by that point, they had already completed the repair. And guess what? It had rained. And coincidentally enough, the repair had not fully stopped the leak. That manager had been trying to get a hold of the contractor who did the work and get them back out there. So when I called, she actually thought I was the roofer who did the repair. She started giving me an earful. I mean, she was unloading on me, and that's okay. I had to stop her and say, whoa, 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 hold on. I'm not even the guy who did the job. I was calling to follow up and see how the repair went. And once we got that cleared up, she explained to me what happened. They did the repair. It had looked like it was handled, good photo documentation, everything, but then it rained and it leaked again. That moment changed everything because now I was not the guy who just lost the repair. I was the guy who followed up. I was the guy who was available. I was the guy having the conversation while the awarded contractor, MIA, missing in action. I had already faxed her over the MSA program. And after that conversation, you know what she said? She said, "Why don't you come out? Let me sign your original contract to do the repair the right way." So not only did we win back the work that I had originally signed or lost, she signed it. Then I still got her to sign the MSA for any sort of upcoming work. I mean, there's 46 buildings there. We ended up working with that community for over a decade. A decade. Think about that. If I had treated that lost repaired like a dead lead, that relationship would have never happened. That account never comes back. That portfolio opportunity never opens up. That's the hidden business advantage that a lot of commercial roofers miss by utilizing an MSA. It's not just a way to create reactive service work, but it gives you a professional reason to re-enter that conversation after losing a job. And when you re-enter the conversation the right way with professionalism, with follow-up, with a real solution, a lot of times you'll find out the awarded contractor did not create that kind of confidence that the client was actually looking for. That's where relationships can turn. That's where accounts can come back. That's where trust gets built and then expand upon from there. Because once a property manager sees that you follow through and communicate well, and they're willing to have their back in time of need, that starts opening a heck of a lot more doors. They let you into more of that portfolio. They bring you into more conversations. And now you're not just chasing one repair, you're becoming part of that account. That's a huge mindset shift. Most roofers think in binary terms: win the repair, that's the opportunity; lose the repair, opportunity gone, see ya, out the window. I don't think that's true. Sometimes the repair is just the first transaction. The real opportunity is the relationship. The real opportunity is being the company that they trust when the next problem shows up. The real opportunity is being the one that answers the phone when the pressure's on. That's why I think contractors need to stop looking at service only through the lens of, did I win the proposal? A good question is how do I stay relevant to the client after the proposal is over? Because when you start thinking that way, you start you really stop building the business one bit at a time. You start building it with a service strategy in mind. That's exactly what the MSA allows you to do. It's what allowed us to do. It gave us a reason to stay connected. It gave the client a practical solution. It created a path for reactive work under a structure that made sense. And it helped us turn lost bids into future opportunities. So if you're a commercial roofer, you're watching this, let's look at one big takeaway from this whole video. Stop assuming that every lost repair is the end of the road. Because a lost repair does not always mean a lost account. Sometimes it's just the beginning of the real relationship to come. If you know how to follow up, if you know how to identify any sort of response gap, if you have a structure in place that gives clients confidence when they need help the most, there's a ton of opportunity there, especially in multifamily, especially with reactive clients, especially with managers who need to know that somebody's going to show up. Because at the end of the day, the roofer who shows up, communicates, and helps bring order to a chaotic situation, they're the roofer who gets remembered. And the roofer that gets remembered is usually the one that gets the next call. So no, I don't look at the MSA as just some agreement. I look at it as an actual strategic tool to build my business, a tool for creating reactive service work, a tool for staying relevant even after losing a job, a tool for winning trust back, and in a lot of cases, a tool for winning the account back too. So if you want more contact around, service, sales, account strategies, and how to grow smarter in commercial roofing, subscribe to the channel. Love to see you. Talk to you soon. Take care.